To store stuff was called presses,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
and they didn't use hangers to hang anything. Everything was hung on hooks and pegs.
Oh, okay.
And and they didn't hang a lot of clothes, because if we have those big wardrobes, especially in one room, and I want to say 2/3 of it is shelves, but it's not quite that 2/3. But on both sides of the middle are shelves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never thought about that, but yeah.
And
And back then, they probably didn't have a whole lot of clothes.
well,
The rich people probably did.
and I got amused because one lady stayed at a bed and breakfast, and she said the owner said these were for the petticoats. And I think not so much petticoats, but let's talk about hooks, because the lady that lived in this house would have a hook. I'm understanding that's almost too big to go through the doors.
So they needed a place to store them. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I don't know.
Because they'd be hard to fold up and put on a shelf.
And I'm reading this book now, and I'm fascinated because the other day I took somebody through here. She was talking about how they use these big fancy homes for hospitals, and she had been to Franklin, Tennessee, and I suddenly realized that's where this book is based. And I mean, it's talking about the Battle of Franklin. We're in a fancy home.
Yeah, that was actually a lieutenant of the Confederate Army. He got captured, escaped, made it back to his home in Franklin, and then the Battle of Franklin took place. He got killed there, died down in his front room.
Well, she's more or less talking about the carnage, and she's in this house. And then yesterday I looked it up, and the house, I mean, it's the house that was used by the Southern forces that this novel is based on. And it doesn't name the woman whose romantic story we're going to follow, but the owner is listed as the same people as mentioned in here with his children. And it's on the outside of the book, it's supposed to be she did all of this research to do it. And they're talking about them running out of bandages or material to bind. And she goes up and takes the clothes off the hook, and they're going to cut up her dresses and things. But I forgot to read what they called where the clothes was.
I wonder if that was petticoats and stuff.
She came up, and it mentioned she took it off the hook, not hanging or anything else.
I'm going to have to pay attention to when I read mine to
see what they call
them.
I didn't realize hangers were
my grandparents' house, thing. My dad's mom and dad, they had an area similar to this, and it had nails. I always wondered what that was for. Now I know.
Now you know.
I was fascinated because we called the linen press down there, and I mentioned their clothes presses up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I read Heidi finally last year, and she comes to grandfather's house, and he says she's supposed to put her stuff in the press, and it's about the first time I've ever seen the use of press. So I got on the internet, even though Carla, the supervisor, says you can't trust it.
Yeah.
It was saying that until about the late 1880s or 1890s, storage was press. Now, whether the kitchen cabinets were called presses, I don't know. This is something that...
I know a lot of terminology has changed over the years.
Yeah.
If you would have told me there was a press in the house, I'd have been looking for something.
I've been looking for a
totally
printing
different.
press.
Yes.
Yeah, and the girls, especially, I don't know, Betty is as old as I am, but she still thinks that the linen press is where they took the linens after they washed them while they were still wet and put them in there to dry them so they didn't have to iron them. And I think, gosh, we don't know. You would not get clothes as dry as you
do nowadays.
as if you do in a washing machine, basically. And they'd be awful wet, and I think these people would be scared to death of mold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that stuff would mold in there, especially if you put a rock on the top of it too.
And then you put a rock on top of it, it's going to make it even dirtier. You're going to have that rock spot.
Well, I wonder if they had something that would, like some rocks would absorb the moisture. I don't know.
So, and the concept is the heat from the fireplace would dry them. And then I think, well, in the summertime, you didn't have heat from the fireplace. Then I had some guy come through, and he said, well, if they didn't have an opening in the chimney, the heat wouldn't get in there. There wouldn't be that much heat.
That's true.
So, I don't know. We have things because I went to Boonville to a steam show, and they have an 1870 house on there. And this woman is telling me they don't have closets in this house because of a closet tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know in Europe, if you have a closet, they considered it a room and you got taxed on it. That's why wardrobes are so popular in Europe.
Yeah, a friend of mine, he works in the realty, and he said a house, it has to have a closet in it in order for it to be considered a room.
A bedroom.
A bedroom.
Well, and Carla was talking about the fact that Missouri did not have a closet tax.
But they brought the same thought pattern over from where they used to be. Like it's in Europe, they did have a closet tax.
Yeah.
So yeah, the things that money makes us do.
That's what my former administrator would say. Lexington didn't have one, so that wasn't the primary reason, but she didn't know if they didn't have one in Kentucky. And then he came here and was scared to.
Yeah, if you get in our old habits of this is the way we've always done it. Yeah.
Tradition says this is where surgery was done. And so we finally got it back and have a surgery table. And you can see what it is.
Yeah.
Just a door. Okay? Any flat space they could find.
Yeah, they use what they could get.
Then you can see how the house got hit by artillery, and we have a canister shot all in there.
Oh, wow.
Drop down.
Oh, I see it. There it is.
Down.
There we go. Oh, wow.
That's a reproduction.
I worked in sterile processing before I moved over to payroll.
It's what?
I worked in sterile processing, and we sterilize the instruments for surgery. They don't look that much different. Nowadays, they're made from different material, but the shape and the function, pretty much the same.
Other things sometimes have more electronic stuff.
They do, they got the robots and stuff, but when it comes to actual instruments, it really hasn't changed other than maybe what they're made out of. Like you wouldn't use wood nowadays. There's no wood because you can't sterilize it. And the metal would be higher quality metal. But the shape and the, like here, that's not much different. And the forceps definitely aren't any different.
I like it how they got the bullet in there. Between like they just pulled it out.
But yeah, there's not much difference in what we use today as far as shape and function. Just different materials.
Said again, if they were operating on me, they'd have to give me like more than 2 bottles.
Well, they didn't exactly have alcohol.
No, they didn't have.
They had anesthetic in the war, in the Civil War. Now, like I'm reading in this book, he says we've got so many wounded, I don't think the chloroform's going to last long enough. And I haven't gotten past the first 100 pages yet, so I don't know.
I know the North had more of that than the South did.
But they still had to
They
run
still had
out.
them. Yeah, they
I
still
mean,
have
you only
to run
got
out.
a limited supply.
Well, when you got thousands and thousands of
Injuries.
injuries and stuff on a battlefield,
You don't have much choices.
Now, the only thing I get kind of amused is the owner has allowed them to use his liquor supply, and so before they put the guy out, they asked him if he wants a drink. And I think, is that a good idea? We're going to put him to sleep? Is that give him a shot of whiskey beforehand.
Well, nowadays we know better, but back then
Well,
might
if he
figure to
died,
take
it'd be
it.
the last good thing he had, I guess.
The other thing that, you know, is you talk about sterilizing, and we had a guy portraying a surgeon, and he was talking about the fact that, you know, that has a bullet probe, and he said, I had a perfectly good bullet probe here. And he'd say, I probed in you for the bullet, and then when I got through, I'd probe in him, and, you know, want to say, never wash his hands.
Yeah, they didn't know as much as we know nowadays.
Yeah, they didn't know anything about germs and infections and stuff.
And then the other thing is, like, why would they carry the soldiers up here?
And not the first floor. Yeah?
The thing is, they worried about bad air, and everybody looks at me like, huh? You gotta be crazy. But there was a concern because of the fact that they thought the air.
They had a concept, they just hadn't proven it yet. But because
Well, it was during the Civil War when they came up with the idea.
well, the Spanish flu, they found that the patients because they ran out of room, so they took patients outside and put them in tents, and that's where they were housing them. They found that those patients did better than the ones in the hospital. And I don't remember the timing on that, but they had a theory about the bad air.
My great grandma died of the Spanish flu.
But think about, you know, how our development just on through COVID.
Good. Yeah.
And what, in the beginning, what all did they tell you about how you could catch it? I know I was at the church, and they were going to sterilize quarters. They could go outside.
So this is the slave quarters?
Yeah, except this one has to become a catch-all.
Oh.
When she first opened up this part of the house, really as part of the tour, she was going to make it a sewing room because of the fact that she didn't have beds and stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
And then the dresser and the child's bed came in here when they turned that room into a surgery room.
Oh, okay.
Because when I first came, it had a full bed in it, and the dresser and the...
Well, with all the natural lighting, it could have been a sewing room.
Yeah, it could have been.
And at one point it might have been. I'm sure it's seen several uses through the years.
And of course, you know who did the sewing.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it very well could be.
We have stairs here. It's really deep.
That's a pretty big room.
Yeah. But there ain't telling how many slaves actually slept in here.
And when I asked somebody who's doing research on slave quarters, you know, how many people they'd house in a room, he says, as many as would put up with each other.
And that's probably true.
Yeah. We have a bed in here, and my story is that Anderson has better ways to hold up his mattress than ropes, so the cast-offs came to the
Makes
slaves.
sense.
And the household slaves were treated better, and these would have been household and personal slaves. So it's very possible. But we do have bathroom facilities in here that is too nice for a slave. But when we got the other set with no beds, they had to find a place for it. So Anderson, if you go through the visitor center, on the wall, you'll find a sale bill that is that he is going to sell 40 slaves because he goes bankrupt during the Panic of 1857 and has to sell everything, including the house. The 40 slaves, most of them are males, and they think it takes males to work the rope factory. And they would have been kept at the rope factory. The story is in 1950s or 60s that there was a brick building out here with 4 rooms, 4 cabins, and probably it's held the ones that worked the land, the garden. and took care of the livestock. That's my guess.
Because they were brick, that was a pretty nice slave quarters for mostly considered what other ones in the South stayed in.
Yeah, I've went someplace and boy, it was barely you could get around a bed on it. I don't think you could go around it. You could pathway to get in and sort of a pathway in front of it, and that was it. And
yeah, they didn't keep them in very big places. This is a big room compared to some.
But like she said, it was a house slave, so they would have.
if you go out to go out on the porch.
Oh, I love this porch.
Oh, I think we're gonna buy this one. Oh, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
Look at the architecture on the top of the windows.
And they said that was cast iron, right?
Yeah, cast iron. Look at the cannon fire damage.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that's probably Missouri State Guards who hit the house there, but that's my guess. The Union encampment is up here. There's very little of the Union encampment that's in the park. And it's the very northern, which they consider the weaker part of the camp, but it's where they were forced to, the Union was forced to retire.
Oh.
If you go straight back from there, and on the other side of the Mountain Hospital is where the Masonic College was.
Oh,
They
okay.
have a replica of a scale model of it. And this is where there were trenches here around the water tower where they would have come out of and retake things.
Look at all the damage behind you, dude.
You can see how the house got hit. And you can see it downstairs.
All the
This is an amazing house.
battle damage to the house.
Leave them out there.
Yes. And I think
He can talk too.
Oops, sorry.
Are you coming?
Yeah.
I thought I punched you across the bed and I didn't see.
Oh.
Sorry, my knees are hurting.
So I'm gonna assume most of the fighting happened on this side of the house.
We're gonna go, that's, you know, we get in the slave quarters above, and now the winter kitchen is down here.
Oh, okay.
The summer kitchen, this, there were it's supposed to be the herb garden, but it looks like milkweeds. There's a foundation there that.
Oh, okay.
And of course, you go the stairs.
Mhm.
Walk it upstairs.
Some more battle damage.
That goes up to the slave quarters. I wish my kitchen was this big.
Oh, no kidding.
Ooh, and the pantry.
Pantry.
We're looking through a door that I don't think Mr. Anderson had in his house.
Okay.
Because there's a door from the outside.
Oh, okay. So when do you think that was added on?
I don't know. No, this part was here.
Oh.
when you look at
This
it.
door.
Oh, this door. Oh, okay.
They would have had to come in off the porch.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So that's what that door there would have been for.
Yeah, this is.
Okay.
I think a little of it, some of this stuff the state put it back because when the caretakers lived here, that they used, this side of the house more. This is the winter kitchen, which you probably heard. Since we don't have a summer kitchen, everything is out here, from the sausage stuffer there to the stove, which I don't think Mr. Anderson got his cook one, but it was made in 1864 here in Lexington, and it's here. I think he probably said she doesn't know how to use it, so why should I spend the money? And as I told you before, this is the only fireplace that burns.
Burns wood.
Sausage press?
Yep.
It's a
Stuffer.
stuffer.
No, sausage stuffer.
And I don't know if you have seen the biscuits machine, but we have one now. And I don't know I know you tour a lot of houses, and I don't know what you have seen.
This is amazing. I like looking at all this.
The only reason I knew what that was is we have one similar to that in Wilson's Creek at the Ray's house, but it's not this fancy.
So I will talk about anything that you're curious about.
It's amazing. I wonder, did the lawyer that came after the Andersons, did he put that in, or did they put that in just for a period piece?
What, the stove?
Yeah.
He would have, by the time, Davis was here, I would have said that cooking on the hearth was not the thing.
Right.
And they would have had a stove. Now, whether they used a stove this small or whether they had more of a square, I don't know how to explain it, a bigger stove.
I've seen in pictures of bigger, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Watkins Mill has one that has a bigger oven. I mean, it's bigger and its oven is bigger, and I think it's about the same time period, but you're also talking about the fact that if you're talking about Davis, this is 1860 plus, and he would have probably got his maid. I'm sure he had a cook or maids and all that.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
This one thing I read about stoves like this, or in the early stoves, that women either liked them or thought they were probably from the devil himself, because of the fact that it burned on one side and was undone on the other side.
I'm sure it took a lot of getting used to, especially if they started out with the hearth.
So, but here again, we have stuff that was here in Lexington, and of course this one, he's going to find that it's got the date on it, and it's got the Morrison boundary name on it.
Morrison?
Yep.
Lexington, Missouri, 1864. I'm assuming that's an iron.
Steamer or something?
No. It's not modern.
Okay.
It's the charcoal.
Oh, okay.
The concept is it would be an iron that you could get away from.
Get away from the stuff. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Because I've always seen them other ones, the smaller.
I have one like the other one.
But I've never seen the charcoal one before.
I think they're rare. I mean,
I don't think I've ever seen one like that.
But I don't
Not as common.
That's like, you tell people, or especially children, that these are irons, and then why are they in the kitchen?
Mm-hmm. They needed the heat.
And also, a little bit is you've got to, it's these kind of people that do the ironing, not others.
Yeah.
There's no cookbook. This is pretty interesting.
It's very interesting. If this house could talk.
I wish that.
Yeah.
Especially when you start wanting to interpret Anderson.